Hello there, and welcome to Fallout Greener Pastures. We're over halfway done the first part of our story. If you haven't heard the previous episodes, I feel like you should start there, or you're going to be very confused. Without further ado, we bring you our feature presentation.
Overseer's Log, June 17th, 2296. Confession time. If you're reading this, you have already gone through all of my other terminal entries. I just wanted to say I was sorry that things got to this point. I never wanted to put anyone in danger. My main goal was to keep everybody safe. And I thought I did my best, given the information I had at the time. If I knew then what I know now, I might have joined the group when they went out into the wasteland. I probably would have tried to convince you all of the same as well. If any of the dwellers who are here with me are reading this, I want you to take your things, gather a group, and leave this place as soon as possible. I know I'm not leaving this room alive. I don't know how you'll do it, but I hope you'll find a way. They're watching me constantly, so I don't expect to be getting away. There's nothing you can do for me, and I wouldn't deserve your sympathies if you had any. I just want you to know that this place was supposed to be a home that lasted us generations. We're all family here in one way or another, but I never treated you that way. Instead, I threatened those who try to help me. Marie was nice to me when she first asked me about the dummy pipes years ago, and I used conniving, backhanded tactics to get everyone to fall in line with the agenda that I had planned instead of listening to her. I guess it was karma biting me in the ass when Gregor refused to answer any of my questions. I know he knows more about what's going on around here and on the surface. I don't know how much of this was by my own design or if I was a product of things I learned watching my father govern the vault. I learned all too late that his method of running it was no better than when we used to be slaves. A leader's job is to work for the betterment of everyone he governs, even if it means sharing hard truths and trying to get everyone to work together to fix them. This was by far the harder road. I hope the road that you consider in the future is different. Going forward, ensure that you don't wind up making the same mistakes I did. My child will probably never see me grow old, but I tried everything in my power to make sure that this place does not become a tomb. When our friends and family above ground return from the surface, they should be welcomed with open arms. I don't know if they will ever return. That is one regret I will live with until this vault takes me. I hope whoever is reading this will pass on the message that I am sorry for the person I was before this all happened. Stay safe and take care. Overseer Brooks.
Darcy Gould's Terminal, June 17th, 2296. I don't know how it happened exactly, but we could all hear the yelling from our rooms, the overseer demanding information from the Enclave. He wanted to know when they were going to leave his people alone. I think he's right. Even with that monster possibly still on the loose, we can't have these men running around trying to take over our lives. We are American citizens, just like they say, but they seem to have forgotten what that means. Our people have fought for freedom through the centuries, for a vision of equality that would see us through times of hardship. And I'll be damned if I'm not going to help fight to kick them out of this vault so we can have our home back. There's nothing they can do to stop us when we're all together. I'm sure that's why they've locked us all away. That way we're no longer a threat. I mean, I guess we aren't that much of a threat anyway. Now that I consider it, we don't have the firepower to match up to them, and I bet I would break every bone in my foot if I tried to kick one of those metal monstrosities. There's no telling how long they're going to leave us to sweat in here while they think of the next unpleasant task for us to do. I almost wish the creature would come back and finish the Enclave off, or failing that, take us all out so we don't have to see what they have in store for us next.
Peter Charger's Log, June 17th, 2296. No one is saying it, but the overseer is definitely dead. We heard the sound of shots coming from his area of the vault. There's no telling what he did to earn their ire. Maybe he decided to finally stop listening to them, and found out they didn't have the patience to put up with him. It's more likely they ran out of a use for him once he gave them all the information they needed. It hasn't been a huge secret that the Enclave came here to steal our oil. People are coming to some unsettling truths. They're saying the dummy pipes lead to a secret government facility here in Alaska. Some are saying it's being sent to the mainland to help fuel the reconstruction of American infrastructure. Now that they have what they want, there's no telling what they intend to do to us. They can't get rid of all of us, or there'd be no one to maintain the pipes. It's not as if they have an army of Mr. Handys ready to take over an entire vault. Colin McCaulson's log, June 17th, 2296. We heard the vault door open. We didn't see who was brought outside, but it's hard to miss the sound of the giant steel cog. I did see a few Enclave members walking down that way with vault dwellers. They had bags over their heads. I don't want to think of what they're doing to the vault dwellers outside. At least they're letting them keep their coats when they go outside, so they don't freeze right away. When they walked past my window, there was no blood. Only soldiers in power armor with guns. We never saw the vault dwellers they brought outside again. It was assumed they'd been killed. People began to mourn their relatives as more groups were taken out one at a time. When everyone figured out what was happening, they started fighting back. The Enclave didn't like that. They didn't resort to killing them in the vault itself. Instead, they cracked the dissenters on the head and injected them with Med-X from our stores before bringing them outside the vault. As I'm typing this right now, I thought that was the extent of what they were going to do to us. But it seems they're taking things one step further. I'd heard stories about how this vault had an odd vent system, but now I know they were true. There's this pink gas filling my living quarters right now. If this is my last message, I want you to know I tried to fight back.
Syl McMurphy's log, June 17th, 2296. They're taking us out of the vault to die. Why the fuck would they bother putting bags over our heads if they're just going to shoot us? Are they going to tie us up and just leave us out in the snow to die? That would be the cruelest death. Although I guess it might be better than what could happen if we chose to stay down here. It could be mercy, viewed that way. I'm trying to tell myself that there could be another reason they're pulling us out there. Maybe they want to fly us somewhere else? If they were going to kill us, they could just shoot us right in our rooms. It's not like we could fight back. Maybe they intend to move in here after they kick us out? Who knows what life is like where they come from? Maybe the conditions they live in are horrible compared to ours. That might explain their nature.
Kilroy McCarver's log, June 18th, 2296. They haven't taken everybody outside of the vault. They left some of us here to keep working. I should have known it wouldn't be that cut and dry. They still need us to keep up the day-to-day minutiae of running the vault until they're done with whatever sick plans they have for it. A few people tried to fight with the Enclave when they came in to take them outside. Those few who did fight back successfully were killed in their rooms. The only saving grace is we didn't have to witness it ourselves. We all know what happened, though. When they were done, the vault intercom came to life and told us that those lucky few who were still here would be returning to work the next day, under Enclave supervision to make sure the siphon was doing its job and extracting the oil at an efficient pace. Of course, they've chosen to keep the people alive who are capable of running the pipeline. Of course, they run things from the Overseer's office. They're probably using his terminal to contact their friends. The internal vault controls are also in his office. They could gas us again at any time with the flick of a switch. I thought they would have turned up the heat once we finally got our hands on the oil. That was a pipe dream. The pressure sensors that are supposed to indicate that there's pressure in our oil tank haven't risen. It's confusing. It's like we're not actually siphoning the oil. Either there's a leak in the line, or the oil isn't making it into our reserves.
Albert Donner's log, June 18th, 2296. A few have taken their lives in the night. Most were people who had lost their families and friends to the Enclave's brutal methods of coercion. By now, most people here have lost at least one person who was important to them. I wish the people who left would show up and save us from this hellhole. The Enclave have been forcing us to run tests on the new system. None of the results make any sense in the context that they're presented. It doesn't take a genius to see the truth staring us in the face. They're sending the oil to an off-site location. It has to be nearby, too. These people who think they're sending oil thousands of miles back to the USA are stupid. They've given each group that's sent down to the well a contingent of soldiers to escort them. It's not for protection or anything. It's easy to see that they'd be willing to toss us to the Amacook's mercy. They just want to make sure that the pipe keeps running as long as possible. Within the group of Enclave personnel, there are a few engineers who have taken with retrofitting our systems to allow for automated processes. Of course, they aren't doing any of the work, they're just directing us on how to do it. Most of us haven't dealt with the systems they're demanding we install. I don't even know where they got the components they're having us work with. They came from outside the vault, of course. They didn't come in with this equipment. They must have a way of going back to wherever they came from and returning within a few hours. The vault door hasn't stopped opening and closing, even after they stopped taking us outside to be executed. Richard Gannon's log, June 19th, 2296. There are only 50 dwellers left in the vault. Very manageable numbers for our captors. They've decided to condense our living situation. Most of us are living on the western side of the vault, close to the excavation, the siphon, and that creature. The Enclave has commandeered the living quarters near the entrance, furthest from the site. No one has seen Gregor for a while. Most of us come to the conclusion that he's dead, along with our friends and family. I never would have wished that for him, no matter how much of a dick I was to him when he first arrived. They've split us up into 2 groups. Each works 12-hour shifts on the pipeline. It's just barely enough to oversee the operation. The Amacook hasn't been active lately. It would be a nice change if I wasn't still scared for my life. No one else seems able to hear it. Perhaps it's finally left us alone. The Enclave doesn't seem to be convinced, judging by how close they get to the excavation. It's almost become a nice break from their tyranny. William Longfoot's log, June 20th, 2296. I'm sure most of us knew the break from the Amacook's invasion of our minds was going to be short-lived. We don't seem to be the focus of its attention. A few of the Enclave have started to become more unhinged than usual. Of course, we're still caught in the crossfire. Any madness it causes to the Enclave, they put back onto us, forcing us to work harder, and even beating us if we step an inch out of line. They weren't exactly gentle before, but poor Bobby can't eat solid food anymore. And they're still having him work these god-awful hours. It's almost like this creature has a vendetta with the Enclave. I'm not sure why. I'm just glad it's not trying to seduce us anymore. I prefer this physical pain over having my mind turned into a weapon against me.
The Vault Dwellers didn't spend much time showing off their clothing like they had with the Inuit. Instead, they focused on sharing all the things they had been taught about pre-war America. Not the things that would remind them of the war. Good things like baseball, apple pie, and football. For the first time in a long time, there was a spark of excitement in Newton's gaze as he eyed the fresh produce. He asked one of the children if they perchance had flour and lard. The child led Newton away in search of ingredients, and he spent the next few hours baking. He wouldn't admit it, but it was the first time since he'd left the vault that he felt somewhat normal. If only they had some ice cream, he noted wistfully. But as one of the dwellers mentioned, the Chinese settlers had probably never tasted ice cream. Why eat something cold if you're already freezing? Talking went on long into the night as the groups mingled, eager to meet new people. Some sat around a fire telling ghost stories, theatrical ones they had learned as kids, and also the real cautionary tales from their recent travels. Others were telling stories of their lives inside the vault, joking around and imitating the personalities of those they'd left behind. Still others were sharing stories about the new plants in the region. From the tato plant, a hybrid mutation of potato and tomato, to the mute fruit, whose origins were entirely unknown, there were many strange plants that showed up sometimes, carried along by strong winds from somewhere unknown. During the summer months, many plants and flowers bloom. Some grow as quickly as they die. When the first snows come, they're already starting to wilt. Others start growing slowly and refuse to stop growing. It's like nature told them to ignore their natural cycle, forcing them to grow out of control, like cancer or a mutation. Either way, they soak up the sun faster than any other plant above ground, more than the plants in the Chinese underground farms, too. They don't just absorb solar radiation, they also absorb ultraviolet, infrared, alpha, beta, gamma, and zeta waves. They quickly die in the cold, like most plants, however, and soon the radiation seeps into the ground again. When they packed up their camp equipment at dawn, the Chinese soldiers from the night before helped them begin the trek to a place they called the One Sun Air Force Base. There, the glorious leader would debrief them on their next steps and teach them more about the Enclave and their presence in the tundra. The sergeant was very quiet whenever this subject was broached. The vault dwellers had learned the night before not to ask any questions. It took a couple of days for them to circumnavigate the whole city, frequently stopping to look at old world architecture and books. A few became mildly exasperated by the constant halt of progress. Soon after they'd passed the city's limits, they came across something surreal, which made them pause. A small town, all coated in red, green, and white lights, shone brightly, cutting through the fog. Easily visible from a distance, the small buildings emanating light looked as if they were made of brown bread. One of the soldiers pointed towards the town. That's the North Pole. It wasn't being used by the Enclave, so it was left mostly untouched after the war. There is a single person living there now. Actually, I wouldn't say living person, necessarily. He's been around since before the war, we think. He avoided the base while the Enclave was operating it. Somehow he kept them at bay using a series of traps and illusions. He uses the clothes left behind to cover his rotting body, and the big, overgrown beard helps to hide his scarred-up face. He always smells strongly of the small red and white sticks he sucks on, and he's constantly offering them to people who stop by. We'll be staying there for the night. It's a bit warmer than hunkering down in one of these buildings on the way. When we get there, beware. Do not ask him about the magical man he's impersonating. You'll be stuck listening to him for hours and hours.
Almost the entire small town looked edible. There was a warm light coming from one of the larger structures, beckoning them towards it. Everyone smiled giddily seeing Santa. The soldiers' looks of confusion made them start to laugh hysterically. Paige tried to explain between breaths. We have songs about old Saint Nick and his reindeer friends who pulled him around the world. Everyone in our vault used to look forward to getting gifts from Santa when we were younger. We know about your St. Nicholas as well. He's basically idolizing capitalism and crime in one fell swoop. The man literally breaks into people's houses, leaves gifts as if to say he can treat you better than your family can. Then he just fucks off to the next house to make them look bad for not blowing all their money on their kids. We saw records of another being too. A creature named Krampus. He's a proper holiday spirit, beating bad children in sacks when they step out of line. Percival was nostalgic for a moment. We were American once. I think we still are. I'm not sure. We may never have heard of this Krampus character. That doesn't matter though, because the good holiday memories were enough to keep me and my family happy and together. The door opened and a voice boomed out to the crowd. Ho, ho, ho! That's right, the spirit of Christmas is togetherness, thoughtfulness, and love. Come on in out of the cold. I'm glad to see there are still people who remember the real spirit of the holidays." The soldiers bowed to the man dressed as Santa before entering. Once inside, they continued their argument. "Oh no, we don't mean you guys. You guys are great. Hopefully you don't have the displeasure of meeting the type of Americans that we're talking about. Compared to them, you guys deserve a visit from the giver of gifts." This night was probably the best yet for the dwellers. There was no alcohol or anything of the sort, just plenty of hot cocoa and Mama Dolce's de leche cookies. For some reason, the dwellers spent most of the night telling their most beloved stories from Christmases past, choosing to share their treasured moments with their new friends. They were sure to avoid getting too close to Santa. A few were straining against themselves to ask how this man was still alive. He wasn't oblivious to this fact, but kept the facade for quite some time. Eventually, when they finished telling stories of their time underground, he stood up, similarly to how one does when they've had an exceptionally large meal. He walked to a cabinet and pulled out a large framed photograph. He held it up to the group. This was me in my younger, prettier days. I still have a gut, as you can tell. Back when I had my own beard and hair, I loved being Santa for all the little boys and girls who'd come to the North Pole. This place was open year-round. I could stay Santa as long as I wanted. I practically lived here until we were forced to evacuate. That was when the war got really bad. I was sent back home to New York before the bombs fell. When the bombs fell, they hit my city. It was like my life was over. I wasn't dead, though. I was just changed into this handsome guy you see today. So I chose to go back to the only place that felt like home. For a long time I avoided this place initially, because of all the army types. I lived out of the missile silo that I found, occasionally coming here to steal supplies. Eventually I learned the army had left this place, so I took up residence. That was after these fine people found me trying to raid their stockpiles. These people have been really friendly too. Not sure if it's the Buddhism or the Taoism. I'll take it regardless. Now tonight, I want you guys to get some rest. Stay as long as you'd like. I get the feeling you're going to be heading out quickly as you came. It's been nice getting to know you. Luke's journal. You remember those stories Mom and Dad used to tell us about Santa sneaking into the pipes to deliver presents? And if we were bad, he'd leave clumps of congealed oil in our stockings? Well, I'm starting to think he might not have been a huge lie after all. Who knows? Maybe I met the real Santa tonight. He's old enough, that's for sure. A bit green around the gills. Maybe I should ask him why you never got the new saddle for your giddy-up Buttercup. It feels safe here. It reminds me of home. The red and the green lights we put up in December. I've never had a candied cane before. They make my tongue feel funny. Cold, like my first breath out of the vault. This place is harsh. It's beautiful to see how people are still managing to make homes in the most unhospitable places. Many new places we visit still feel like home. I know it's not our home, but if that's what we wanted, I suppose we'd still be in the vault. Ryan Andrews log, June 21st, 2296. It looks like Gregor wasn't actually dead. He didn't elaborate on how he got back into the vault. That is, not until there was a big enough group to hear his story. He answered the most pertinent questions first. He explained that he had been locked inside the infirmary until the Enclave took him outside and shot him repeatedly, leaving him to die in the snow. Instantly, he was asked whether he saw what happened to the rest of the dwellers who were brought outside. He unfortunately told them that he didn't see anything except for the blinding snow and the Enclave officers who dragged him outside. Apparently, people who suffer from his condition are able to heal themselves from life-threatening wounds if they're surrounded by a sufficient amount of radiation. He was on the brink of death for hours before the radiation seeped into his body and brought him back to life. Quite a few people were in awe at this statement. He told them it wasn't that special. It could, in fact, be a curse in the frozen wastes. People like him can freeze above ground if they aren't careful. He said he's met many people like him, but they never survive long in cold weather. He finally told us how he got inside the vault, how he was able to open the door to the secret entrance to the vault using codes on the Pip-Boy he found in an old research station. Now that the Overseer was dead, he said he didn't feel the need to keep up the ruse any longer. In fact, he wanted to try and help the dwellers escape the vault. He tried to explain to us that he thought the outside was too dangerous for people like us who lacked any experience of the frozen wastes. Recently, he decided it was probably the only way that some of us were going to be able to get to safety. He wasn't able to explain much more to us. Before we knew it, the Enclave had come back in to check on us. We knew what would happen if he was discovered, so we've chosen to hide him in the ductwork for now.
Kilroy McCarver's log, June 22nd, 2296. Gregor has been spying on the Enclave for us and passing notes through the vents and pipes. He's been giving us details on their rounds, when they go on break, and the important things that they talk about regarding their plans for the vault and us inside of it. It was smart of us to hide him there. As long as he's in the vents, we should be shielded from the radiation he's emitting. I thought the smell of his decaying and frostburnt body would get him caught for sure. Someone pointed out that we hadn't showered in weeks, which probably masked his smell. I don't know how he is expecting all of us to make it into the Overseer's office. That room is watched at all hours of the day. There's no way we can get out to the surface. And what are we going to do after that? We're bound to freeze to death. This has to be the most half-baked plan that's ever been hatched in human history. They have all the guns now, too. They took all of our weapons from us the moment they came into the vault and started barking orders. I would yell at Brooks if he wasn't already turning into a hunk of frozen meat. Of course, I can tell that he doesn't have a huge desire to help people like me who were treating him the worst when he got here. Who would? I suppose I should count myself lucky that he wants to rack up some good karma before that disease finally does him in.
Peter Charger's log, June 22nd, 2296. Gregor thinks he may have found a way for us to escape the vault, and not a moment too soon. I need to get outside of this vault so I can find the bodies of my wife and daughter. He needs to hurry up. He's been searching the Enclave leadership to see when their security is the most relaxed. That seems to be at night. He intends to trick the Enclave into gassing the vault. If we know ahead of time, we can seal the vents that lead to our suites, and Gregor will make sure the gas travels down the vents leading to the Enclave's position. We're lucky that the sound of the pipes is hiding the sounds he makes as he sneaks through the vault. Once that's finished, we should be able to walk out the back door without anyone noticing until they wake up from their nap. He said the only flaw in the plan was the fact that the vents did not feed into the Overseer's office, so there may be a chance that there is a small contingent of soldiers who are still conscious. He found where canisters of chemicals are stored. He intends to disperse the gas directly into the Overseer's office. The gas doesn't affect him nearly as bad as it does us. He's going to use the time that the room is filled with gas to access the terminal and open the passageway. Once it's open, it should help with dissipating the gas so we can pass through without suffering any deleterious effects. Martin Smith's log, June 24th, 2296. It's going to happen tonight. We're going to stage a riot to force the Enclave to lock us in our rooms and try to gas us. Dean got his hands on one of the chemical canisters using his security credentials to enter the security offices while no one was paying attention. With only a little bit of tinkering, we were able to turn the canister into some sort of aerosol. It should be easy for Gregor to release it in the Overseer's office. A few people have pointed out that the power-armored soldiers have built-in air filters in their suits. They'll probably take a chance to enjoy a break and hide out in one of the living quarters, most likely relaxing in the bed of someone they took outside and shot. We shouldn't need to worry about them as long as they don't continue to peruse the corridors while the gas is active, and while we try to make our way to the Overseer's office using the vents and pipes to circumnavigate the threats that we would encounter. Since the heat has been turned off, the radroaches haven't been able to survive. According to Gregor, there's a whole bunch of them frozen inside the air vents. I'd wondered where they disappeared. A lot of us joked that the people who left took them along for the ride. Our best hope for survival outside will be deferring to Gregor's knowledge. We don't have the equipment that the others did when they left. I honestly have no idea how we'll survive the outside without decent clothing, weapons, or provisions. We haven't been able to stash away nearly enough to take with us when we leave. If we don't pack light, we'll make too much noise and alert the people who are still conscious that there's something amiss.
We hope you enjoyed our story. Thank you again for joining us. If you'd like to hear more about why war never changes, please subscribe to get regular updates on the adventures of the dwellers from Vault 710. If you're excited about the expanding Fallout universe, please feel free to tell your friends and spread the word. If you'd like to contribute, we invite you to join our Patreon. Subscribers will get access to episodes 1 week early. Our hope is that these stories help fill the void of being unable to play Fallout 5.